Good afternoon. My name is Jenny Ryan, an intern at the Luce Center this summer. I have the absolute honor to introduce our last speaker at today's summit, an outstanding advocate, athlete, and voice for women across the country, Riley Gaines. Riley has achieved incredible success at a young age and has had a great amount of influence for the conservative movement. Being a collegiate athlete myself, Riley has made an incredible impact on my life and my fellow female athletes. Riley was a student athlete at the University of Kentucky. She's a 12-time All-American swimmer with 5 SEC titles. After Riley was forced to compete and share a locker room with biological man Lia Thomas at the 2022 NCAA Women's Swimming Championship, she decided to start speaking out and advocating for young girls in America against the woke left and the gender-denying ideology. Since then, Riley has become a national leader in the movement to protect women's sports. The Luce Center hosted Riley first in 2022 to share her story, and received our Woman of Exceptional Courage Award in March of 2024. Riley joined 16 other student athletes in a lawsuit against the NCAA to protect women's sports. Her advocacy has played a crucial role in influencing national policy, including the executive order signed by President Donald Trump back in February that prevents men from competing in women's sports. Very recently, the University of Pennsylvania finally restored justice and stripped Lia Thomas of the titles taken from Riley and other female swimmers. Even in the face of backlash across the country from media critics and figures like Simone Biles, Riley has stood strong. Her strength doesn't just represent elite athletes, but every young woman who deserves a level playing field. And now, Riley embarks on her most important role yet, motherhood. Just recently, she shared the exciting news of her pregnancy and that she's expecting a baby girl. We're thrilled for her and know that her daughter will grow up with a powerful role model to look up to and a more fair world thanks to her mom. Riley is truly such an inspiration to myself and so many others in America. So please join me in welcoming Riley Gaines.
Well, thank you guys. Man, let me tell you how excited I am to look out and see so many young faces. This is not often the crowd that I find myself in, especially in DC. It wasn't too long ago. I've testified. I've had the displeasure, truthfully. I know several of you are probably staffers on the Hill. I've had the displeasure of testifying before Congress and the Senate many, many times now. I'll tell you, the first time, I was probably 22, 23 years old. I remember being super intimidated. The topic of the hearing was actually, I think it was the rise in violence among left-leaning protesters. So, there's only so much you can prepare, especially when you're there to tell your own personal, real life lived experience. But I just remember being so nervous walking into this hearing, right? These are like our lawmakers, the most elite, the prestigious, the people who, again, govern this nation. So intimidated, but I was intimidated for all of 5 minutes before realizing that these people are actually idiots for the most part, who, especially, of course, coming from the other side, and I'll get into some of these interactions, once you get them off of their piece of paper that their staffer did prepare for them, they don't know anything on the topic of men and women's sports and really how it affects women adversely. There was one encounter. This was actually a separate hearing where it was Representative Summer Lee of Pennsylvania, a Democratic member, one of those pesky squad members. She was there. She was delivering her opening remarks, and in her monologue, I believe she was the chair of this committee or something to that effect. So she got to give an opening monologue, and in her opening monologue, she went on to say, those who take the stance on the other side of this issue, they're bigoted, they're transphobic. I can't believe that I'm forced to sit here and listen to these bigoted views. And it was my turn to read my testimony, and I read it, and I put my paper down. I didn't even mean to say the thing that came out of my mouth next, but I accidentally looked at her and I said, Representative Lee, if what you just heard, if that makes me transphobic, then understand by your own logic, your opening monologue makes you a misogynist, which sent the hearing into a tailspin, as you could probably imagine. It was like the Jerry Springer show at that point, because Marjorie Taylor Greene was also in this hearing. She buzzes in and she says something to the effect, I think how it first went was Summer Lee buzzed in and she said, "I would like to have my words removed from the record on the grounds of engaging in personalities." That's when Marjorie Taylor Greene buzzes in and she says, "Well, I would call a man posing as a woman someone who's engaging in personalities." And then it was like, really like, oh gosh, what have I done? So all of that to say, just very, very excited to be here in this room with you guys when in Washington, D.C. And thank you guys. Again, maybe the intention is for me, for Harmeet, for Paula, for the other amazing speakers and women who were here to talk with you all today. Maybe the intention is for us to inspire you all, but it is certainly this right here. Again, seeing so many vibrant, young, beautiful women, it's this that inspires me. And again, this feels like a full circle moment. As CBL, they were the first ones to ever host me to speak in front of any group. And again, I think back to that. 3 years ago at this point, I was so nervous. And I got to listen in the back as Paula spoke, hearing her say similarly, taking that initial leap of faith 3 years ago when it wasn't as widely accepted to say that men can't become women and vice versa. Compare that to now, just very grateful and excited. So, look, imagine many of you share the same sentiment that I do, that these past 160-ish days, maybe, you guys probably know better than I do, these past 160-ish days, my pillow feels a little bit better at night, I sleep better, the air feels a little clearer. It really has been win after win after win with Donald Trump back in the White House. I'll speak to just a few of my favorite wins that we have seen. Number one, and on day one, Donald Trump signing an executive order declaring there are only two sexes, male and female. I cannot believe that a sitting president has to take time out of his day, has to exercise his executive authority to declare such, but nonetheless, he does. We have a sitting Supreme Court justice who doesn't even know what a woman is because she claims she's not a biologist, which... guess what? I'm not a veterinarian, but I know what a dog is. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Of course, being there, as Paula mentioned as well, when Donald Trump signed the executive order barring men from participating in women's sports within any educational program that receives federal funds. And it was one of the most amazing things because Donald Trump, as he's signing this executive order, maybe some of you saw the pictures or the clips or the visuals or images that surfaced following this signing, but it was so amazing because he was surrounded by a sea of young girls. Like I'm talking 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and they've got their uniforms on or their jerseys on and, wearing their big bows in their hair that they wear on the soccer field. That visual means more to me than I could possibly put into words. One more personal one that I can speak to, as my husband is actually here with me today, which is always such a blessing when he gets to travel with me. He's the really cute, I don't know if he's actually in here, but if he is, he's the really cute 6'4" British guy who now living in Nashville has like this awesome country British accent. It's the best. But he came over to the States in 2018. He was an athlete at University of Kentucky as well. That's where we met. We started dating. We got married in my senior year, which was just such a blessing in disguise, I think, knowing I guess at the time, not really knowing what was to come over the next few years, but having a constant in your life through all the ups and downs, really a rocket. It has just been the biggest blessing ever. So got married in my senior year, which was 2022. So we've been married over 3 years at this point. But of course, when you marry an alien, which is what I call him all of the time, a legal immigrant, someone who has come into this country the correct way, done everything by the books necessary in order to receive residency here through green card, visa, other means, done everything by the books. We were told, we have an immigration lawyer, he tells us, look, you'll apply for your green card once you're married, it'll take 6 months, 8 months max. No worries. We wait 6 months, We wait a year. We wait a year and a half. We wait 2 years. It had been 3 years at this point, and we hadn't heard anything from USCIS or Immigration Services, again, under the previous administration. And so we began reaching out to every agency, every department. What's the holdup? Again, we've submitted everything the way it needs to be submitted. What's the deal here? No one could point us in the right direction until finally we get a letter to our house that says in big bold letters, request for evidence. I open this letter. It says, sorry, we can't give you your green card because your medical record is not complete. And what was missing from my husband's medical record in the year 2025? The ineffective, under-researched COVID vaccine. They said that they would not give him his green card until he was willing to get the vaccine. I'm so grateful that my husband was just unwilling to compromise on his health in that way. And he said no. And we prayed to God that Donald Trump would win, and praised God that he did. He was inaugurated, of course, in January. I give it 24 hours before I pick up the phone. Hey, did you know that there's this nationwide mandate, this mandate that I would deem illegal that's still in place? He said, no, give me 2 hours. And literally within 2 hours, it wasn't a text, it wasn't a call. I saw a headline that said President Trump vacates nationwide mandate requiring legal immigrants to get the COVID vaccine. So really not long before we came here, got this little green card in the mail. Don't know why I didn't think it was a green card. Spoiler alert, it's literally a green card. Decided that we would celebrate this, of course, especially given that July 4th just happened. We had to remind him he was born on the wrong side of the revolution. So we went to Publix. They have a little bakery in the back. We went to the cake decorator, and I said, hey, can you make a cake that says congrats on not getting deported? And the cake decorator is like, oh gosh, I don't know if I can do this. I need to go talk to my boss in the back. And he runs back there and he comes back. He's like, I can make it. So he gave us this cake and he forgot the R in congrats, but nonetheless, we celebrated. So all of that to say, the wins just keep coming, and I'm certainly not tired of them yet. Look, I'm not going to waste much of your time sharing the specifics of how I have found myself here, because I could. I could share with you guys for hours about the unfairness of it, like you heard from Paula, standing on the block at your national championship, top 8 women in the entire country, looking over at the lane next to you and seeing what was very visibly a man, standing at 6'4", size 15 feet, taking up the entire diving block. Visible from his side profile is not only his Adam's apple, but to be pretty explicit, which if we had to see it, I feel like it's only appropriate you guys have to hear about it. The bulge in his women's swimsuit. I could share with you, of course, the violation and the feelings of utter betrayal in an intimate area of undressing, like a locker room. When you turn around, and again, there's a 6'4" man taking off his women's swimsuit, fully naked, fully intact, fully exposing himself, inches away from where you were simultaneously fully undressed. I could share with you, again, like you heard from Paula, the ways our universities, our institutions, the administrators, the way they try to emotionally blackmail us. I think that's the best way to put it, into silence. And how it was effective, how it worked, how it kept so many of us from being willing to put our name and our face to this issue, not because we agreed with it, not because we thought it was fair or righteous or just or moral by any means, but because we were terrified, and understandably so. I could share all of that with you and more. Ultimately, that's, I guess, the how I have found myself here, but I would imagine a question far more important, and a question you've probably asked yourself over these past few years, is why, right? Why is this happening? Why is our country, especially under the previous administration, why are we seemingly in a chokehold? Like this cultural chaos, why is it plaguing our nation. I have a couple answers, or I guess beliefs as to why I feel that way, why this is happening. Number one, and I think most importantly, I approach this conversation as a Christian. The Bible, that tells us, that answers the question of why we're warned. We're told of a time where Isaiah 5:20, these spiritual battles, they intensify, where darkness is seen as light, where bitter is seen as sweet, and where evil is seen as moral. And it's undeniable that that's not where we were, and even still currently where we are as a nation. And to be very, very clear, that's not me saying I think that Will Thomas is evil. Because hear me when I say I don't think that. I don't think he's evil. I believe he's a victim too, truthfully. But you know what is evil? Deception and manipulation and lying and affirming something that is neither biblically nor objectively true. That's evil. And who does that sound like? Sounds a lot like Satan. That's how he works. Through lies, through deception, discouragement, he destroys. That's what he does, and that's the basis of the gender ideology movement. But more broadly, or I guess more worldly speaking, answering the question of why. Why have we reached a point where, again, we have a sitting Supreme Court justice who can't even attest to what a woman is, as a woman herself, nonetheless. Understand, when we deny the most simple of truths, it's the most basic truth since the beginning of time, man and woman. It's the sheer essence of humanity. Hate to break it to every single person in this room, never mind every single person on this planet. You're all here from man and woman. When we deny that, understand there are no limits. If we deny that, there is nothing that we will not deny. So any single person, if they cannot emphatically say that men cannot become women, women cannot become men, men cannot get pregnant, tampons don't belong in boys' bathrooms, if they cannot emphatically say those things, then you should not believe a single word that comes out of their mouth regarding any single topic, regarding any single conversation, because they have lost all credibility at that point. I will say, I feel more hopeful now than at any point these past few years. Again, speaking personally, these past 3-ish years. The wins that we have seen, again, I mentioned some of the executive actions that we have seen being taken, how the Trump administration, the Department of Justice, you guys just heard from Harmeet, she's so fantastic, the Department of Education, the Office of Civil Rights, how they have re-implemented Title IX as it was intended to be understood when it was written and passed in 1972, 53 years ago at this point. That's a fantastic win. University of Pennsylvania, I guess $175 million being held over someone's head is enough money to make anyone find a spine, I guess. But nonetheless, a step in the right direction. Even we know now that there will be a Title IX case heard before the Supreme Court. Oral arguments will begin this fall, which is fantastic news. And I think the votes are certainly there. So this is, again, it's a good thing that these things are being done and being heard. That being said, I just want to send a very forceful message to you all. Again, people, women who are involved in the movement, you're here. You know what's going on politically, culturally around this nation. My message to you is to not become complacent, which it's really hard. It's almost inevitable, actually, because success, it breeds complacency. And that's what we've seen over the past few months. We've seen success, but complacency breeds failure. It is the enemy to growth. It is the enemy to progress. And truthfully, it's what the other side does really, really well. They don't become complacent. They don't just roll over. They don't allow themselves to be steamrolled. They continue pushing forward with full steam ahead. I mean, you heard from Harmeet, how Gavin Newsom basically gave the Trump administration a middle finger and said, well, we don't care about federal law. It doesn't matter to us. I'm willing to put every single child, right? What they're putting at risk here, these federal funds that they receive, again, all willing to die on the hill that men belong in women's sports, boys belong in girls' sports. I mean, we're talking school lunches for kids. Gavin Newsom says, well, that doesn't really matter. This is what matters. They're not complacent. They continue to push forward full steam ahead, heads rearing, teeth gnashing. And I'll say it, it's admirable. Granted, I think it's easy to unite behind evil in the way that they do. When you lack a moral compass, when you lack a conscience, when you lack a backbone, a spine, integrity, any amount of honesty, it's easy to do what they do, I believe. But nonetheless, I think we could take a page from their playbook. It's how they've acquired every inch of the public square. Think about it. The left runs academia. That's no shock. Many of you, I would imagine, maybe some of you are still in college. Maybe some of you have just recently graduated from college. Even at these, private institutions and school and states you would never imagine, a liberal university. I'm sure every single person here has some sort of personal account with feeling like you can't express your views as a conservative woman. I won't ask you to raise your hand, but how many of you, right? Rhetorical question. How many of you have been in a class where you were assigned a topic to write about and you felt like you couldn't write about what you actually wanted to write about for fear of not receiving a good grade? Right? I see lots of heads nodding. So the left runs academia entirely. Corporate America. It's all left-leaning for the most part. Even companies like Nike, right? Nike, a shoe company, like an athletic wear brand. They're funding research right now. Nike is funding research to study how they can disfigure young boys enough to make them physically comparable to young girls without retaining significant male advantage. Nike, a shoe brand, is funding child experimentation. Ask yourself why. Again, that's corporate America. Healthcare. This is an institution that should not be biased at all. Left-leaning. Of course, media, Hollywood, entertainment, all left-leaning. It's because they are not complacent. This war on woke, hear me when I say it, has not yet been won. Again, fantastic strides being made, but the war on woke hasn't been won. Take it from Governor Evers of Wisconsin, for example, who recently, not too long ago, in Wisconsin state statute, he attempted to change the word mother to inseminated persons. It doesn't get a whole lot more dehumanizing as a woman or as a mother than inseminated persons. And we've been called it all, right? Like cervix havers, uterus owners, menstruators, bleeders, chest feeders, birthing people, like the list goes on. Inseminated person takes the cake. That's like what you refer to cattle as. So I'm reading the red line of this bill. And of course, I stop in my tracks when I see this, when I see the word mother crossed out and inseminated persons in its place. And the first thing that crosses my mind is, oh gosh, what are they going to call fathers? Right? Because the counterpart of inseminated persons would, I guess, be inseminator. No, they changed father to natural parent. Now tell me more specifically there's not a war on women. Then I start to think, oh gosh, more questions. I'm like, what about grandmother? You got it. Grand inseminated persons. What about stepmoms or adoptive mothers? Actually, no, you're not a mom at all by this Wisconsin state statute because you don't meet the definitional standard. So I could keep listing examples of how this war on woke has not yet been won. But let it be a clarion call to every single person in this room who's in a position of influence, regardless of what that position is, whether you're an intern, whether you're a student, whether you're just here to learn more. Every single person here has a circle of influence. You don't have to have millions of followers on social media. Use that circle of influence. Stand unapologetically, stand firmly, stand boldly and unwavering in what you know to be true, what the Bible tells us to be true. And again, it goes back to the first book on this topic. He created them male and female, intentionally and uniquely in his perfect image. And how amazing is it that we have a creator who does not make mistakes? Last thing I'll add here before opening it up to questions. Just listening to my intro today and hearing the word mom is like the craziest, most magical thing ever. And I think especially to know that it's a little girl, which I knew the minute we found out that I was pregnant. I would have bet anything on the fact that it was a girl. I'm not a very intuitive person, I think, in general, but I knew it was a girl. I just knew it. It feels poetic. It feels timely to now be growing, developing a little girl who I've been fighting for. The people in this room, you're here fighting for, far before I ever imagined myself in this position. It feels very serendipitous. I will say, I think since becoming pregnant, I'm 30-ish weeks now, which is crazy. It's right around the corner. I can't believe it. And to think of all the places, she's already been at inauguration. She's been to the White House. She's been right here with you guys now. It's pretty cool to think about. But I will say, becoming pregnant, it has made me radically pro-life. And to clarify, there was never at any point, even prior to being involved in the political realm in the way that I am now, I've always been pro-life from the standpoint of understanding we have a God who condemns the shedding of innocent blood and who breathes purpose into every life, whether in the womb or outside of the womb. So I've always been pro-life in that way. But now, again, having a child growing inside of me, feeling her move, not going to that first appointment at 8 weeks and listening to her heartbeat. It beats the same as yours and mine, by the way. It has made the thought of abortion hurt viscerally and deeply. To understand the sinister, sinister organization that is Planned Parenthood, an organization that we involuntarily, until the big beautiful bill recently passed and was signed by President Trump, that we in this room involuntarily funded with our taxpayer dollars, receiving last year $792 million in federal funds. With that money, they perform 400,000 plus abortions every single year. That's more than 1,100 every single day. Of course, promoting gender ideology, administering hormones, chemicals, unnatural substances, surgeries to minors with little to no consultation, using those taxpayer dollars to support the Democratic Party politically, supporting Democratic candidates to defeat Republican candidates. It is a sinister, sinister organization that thrives off vulnerability, that thrives off insecurity, that thrives off of Satan's lies. But I'm here to tell you, as a woman, and now as a mom, which I really feel like hearing that in the intro was just the craziest thing. There is nothing more empowering as a woman than, I believe, than bringing life into this world. And especially when you get to do it with your better half. So that being said, appreciate you guys. Again, it's just a blessing to be in a room full of like-minded people who understand the threats, the risk associated, even still, in the year 2025, with being here, putting your name and your face behind an organization like this. It's a scary thing to do when you're 20, 21, 22 years old. But there's there's few causes more worthy than the ones that CBL and the people in this room are fighting for. Would love the opportunity to answer any questions from you guys.
It is so incredible to have you here. I think we can all agree that you are such a role model to all of us, and especially as a new mom. You almost had me in tears at the end. So yeah, we have time for 2 questions only, unfortunately.
2?
I know.
Hi, my name's Mia Himes. I'm a student at Patrick Henry College, and I am interning for Representative Riley Moore of West Virginia. Regarding your comment on motherhood, from the perspective of a woman who is now a mother, which is obviously a glorious calling, what are your thoughts on pursuing career, especially since we do want to be fighting for women in the workplace, but simultaneously, we all know that motherhood is so important.
100%. This is something that I feel pretty strongly about, actually, because I don't think it's something that we've done a fantastic job messaging over the years, specifically as conservatives. You see many conservative organizations, whether grassroots or national, who encourage women to stay home, to be that stay-at-home mom, to fulfill that very womanly, nurturing role, which again is a fantastic thing. But the reality is, in today's world, there are very few circumstances where families, especially families with children, can survive on one income, truthfully. So I feel very strongly about this, and I'm glad you asked, because, again, I don't think we've messaged it well. I'm of the mindset that, of course, I don't believe children are burdens or hindrances. Granted, maybe it's easier for me to say this, not yet having a child in my arms, but I don't imagine my advocacy, the work that I've been doing, will slow down even with a daughter. Again, I think that only further deepens the passion, the necessity, and the urgency of the speed of which I want to work towards. So I think there's a way to do both. I think there's a way to succeed in the workplace and to continue to climb and put yourself in a position where, again, you can be and fulfill that successful role in the career, but also being a fantastic mom. It's exactly what my mom did, actually. Both my parents. So I'm so fortunate for that. I'm so grateful that they kind of paved that road, and I was able to witness it. Me and my siblings were able to witness it, and I think that's largely what has given me the opinions that I do on this topic. If you're one of those women who want to stay home, who want to be in that role, of course, I'm all for that too, but I think we need to do a better job as conservatives being able to message this, because there's a need for women in the workplace. I really do believe that. Women in Congress, women in DC, we provide a different perspective because, again, it goes back to the fact that men and women are inherently different, not just physically, but in our personalities and our traits and our characteristics that shine in the workplace. And I think we need to see more female representation, of course, not in a DEI way where it's mandated, but if that's something that's, again, can be beneficial, then I believe it's a good thing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi again.
Hey.
Well, I want to start off and say thank you so much for being a role model to young conservative women all across the country. We truly appreciate it. My name is Shannon Sodders. I'm going to be a senior at Liberty University, and I am a summer intern for the Media Research Center. So I went to a public high school, and I had a classmate that was a transgender, and you can imagine, with me being a Christian, standing on the truth of the Bible and biology, how that went. But I had a lot of Christian friends who stopped being my friend after that, and I've seen the continuing pattern over the years of Christians not standing up for the truth and love over these issues. And what advice would you say to people who cannot see the obvious spiritual warfare today?
Well, I again, I imagine this is a circumstance that many of you have found yourself in, myself included. That being said, these are situations that we need to find ourselves in as Christians, where you find yourself standing so firmly that you're persecuted for it, because again, that's what the Bible tells us will happen if we stand firmly in the truth. What Jesus did, of course, he ate with the sinners, he sat with the sinners, but what he didn't do was sin with the sinners. So my advice is to live a Christ-like life. And what I think of when I say that, I think of books and chapters like 1 John, right? Think of the adulterous woman, the woman who was sentenced to be stoned. Jesus appears, he says, those without sin cast the first stone. That is him leading with grace, right? The soldiers realize, look, none of us can throw a stone. But Jesus then tells the woman, this is the part that's often left out, now go and sin no more. That is him landing with the truth. So leading with grace and landing with the truth, and that's how I try and approach this conversation, which is easier said than done. Sometimes you just want to scream and shake someone. It's so common sense. How do you not understand it? You know, my eyes are telling me this is a man. My ears are telling me this is a man. I'm going to say that it's a man. How are you opposing this? But I think the way that I try and frame it as a Christian, the outlook that I have is leading with grace and landing with truth. And reminding, I think, especially other Christians. I have been so dismayed over the past few years to see the unwillingness of churches or congregations in getting involved in these issues. Of course, I'm not saying that pastors and preachers and spiritual leaders should stand at the podium and deliver political messages, if you will, but nonetheless, their job as a spiritual leader is to guide the body, and one of those ways is to guide them culturally. And I think there's been a lack of that. God bless the people who do. We need it. So as Christians, it's kind of like, if not us, then who type of thing. So I believe it's an obligation that we have to stand firm.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Actually, we have time for one more question, and then we'll wrap it up.
Hello, my name is Madeline Zadnik, and I go to the University of Dallas in Texas. My question was, through this whole process, has Thomas reached out to you or anyone in the situation, or has he backlashed or said anything about what's been going on?
You know what? To answer first, have we had any sort of conversations? No, we haven't. I'm ashamed to say that at first, again, in those first few weeks following, taking that initial leap of faith and talking to the media about this, I reached out to him apologetically. Like, I felt like I needed to apologize, and I couldn't necessarily say where I was coming from without saying sorry first. And again, I'm ashamed to say that because I don't have to say sorry for feeling as if it was totally violating to have a man in our locker room. I don't have to say sorry for that, but I believed the lies that kept all of us silent for so long. All of us, at least Division I female swimmers, that it was disrespectful, that it wasn't kind. You could oppose his participation in the pool with you all, but what you couldn't do was use the his at birth pronouns, because at that point you're committing a hate crime or whatever other crazy things they would come up with to try and keep you from saying again what your gut was telling you was the correct thing to say. So I reached out very apologetically, hoping to have a discussion, hoping to be able to explain where I was coming from, where so many of us were coming from, but it was to no prevail. There was no response, and there has been no communication directly between us since. I will say he has been relatively quiet on the issue at large. He's done a couple campaigns and ads and videos and podcasts where, of course, he takes the stance you would imagine him taking, saying that those who oppose trans people, were saying they don't exist, the normal talking points. He did go on to sue FINA, which is the International Governing Body of Aquatic Sports, after they created a policy that actually created a third category, so Thomas could still continue to swim, just not against the women, because he had been through puberty at that point. That was the basis of their new guidelines. If you've gone through male puberty, you can't compete in the women's category. But here's a third category that is open to all who are what they described as non-binary, gender non-conforming, or trans-identifying. But Thomas basically said, if I can't trample on women in the process, I don't want to swim at all, actually, which is, we hear the proposal of a third category often, right? Well, isn't this a fair solution? The other side, what the past few years have shown us, that's not something they're willing to compromise with, because it would require them to admit that Thomas was never a woman to begin with. He's still not a woman. He never was one. And they're not willing to do that, as it's proven to be. So he sued. He lost. That's what kept him from going to the Olympics, competing with the women. But outside of that, he has been relatively quiet. I believe he went to law school after undergrad, which, like, of course, fighting to be like some sort of civil rights lawyer, which is right on par with what I probably would have imagined that he was to do. I don't speak much about his personal life or the things that I know he engages in privately, because, again, it's the beauty of America is you get to do those things so long as it's not hurting someone else, so long as it's not costing me my taxpayer dollars, so long as it's between consenting adults, it's legal, right, all the things. I don't really care what you do behind closed doors. But what I will say, again, in this intimate setting, is that how he portrays himself and the actions that he takes are very, I think, deeply rooted in a fetish, which he's admitted to being an AGP, which is like another thing, I don't know, like it's hard to keep up with what all these things are, but it stands for autogynephiliac, which means you're just sexually aroused as dressing as a woman more so than actually believing that you are one. So again, it goes to show you that we were forced to, participate in his fetish, if you will. And we were reprimanded if we even dared to oppose it. So again, really dark, sadistic things there. But nonetheless, it's the beauty of America. That's why so many people want to be in this country. But yeah, all that to say, no discourse between the two of us. But I would happily welcome it. I really would. And I wouldn't do it apologetically, no.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.